It's another episode of Feed the Trolls, and as per usual, I'm starting it out with warning you that there's a very good chance that by the time this comes out, everything we say won't matter because these teams would have finally made the announcements we need them to make. I rushed this. The moment we heard Twistzz had left FaZe, I messaged Thorin. I was like, we got to get on this. And I planned it that we would record today because I truly believed that one Liquid would be out of Fisher, so we would know who was replacing
How dare
Twistzz.
you? How dare you? Okay.
Those bastards continue to play in the damn tournament.
Okay.
And so we have no news. So this is going to be a lot of speculation. Launders is joining us. Let's hope we can get it up before they confirm exactly who's going where. Gents, let's just jump straight into it. Twistzz leaving Liquid. Launders, were you even surprised when it got announced?
I actually was, because I heard this rumor that there was going to be some kind of swap and it was going to be like a EliGE for Twistzz a couple months ago. It's fucking every single rumor you can think of has come out in the last few months. And the problem is, over the years, almost every dream or nightmare roster move has actually taken place. So like whether or not the guy who spreads the rumor, is actually telling the truth, like it might happen anyway. That's sort of like I think that's actually the most fun part about Counter-Strike is like what the people want. Eventually, it happens in some form or another.
Oh, the obvious moves you mean? Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. So, but in this case, I actually, I'm a little bit biased, okay, because when I casted PGL Bucharest back in like March, I saw the Apogee lineup play with jcobb and Hypex and these guys, and they had a really good couple of series. So it's like one of these situations as a commentator where I had like such a close look at two really good series, and now I was on board with like jcobb and some of those guys. Like I thought after casting those games, they're going to get a chance to play in tier 1. I'm not surprised to see them getting sold and getting the call-ups. Now, if you haven't watched those two series versus like Mongols and Astralis in their like dream run where I think they still didn't get out of groups, then you would have no opinion of Apogee, and you wouldn't think that these are anybody except for like pretty decent tier 2 Polish players. So I can totally understand that. But I think I actually would have liked to see this FaZe try to go all the way to Budapest with this lineup. I think I'm not unhappy with Twistzz coming in, but I would have been more excited to see them continue on this path because Brokey actually looks a lot better than we could have expected, considering he took such a random short break. And I am scared that like Rain or Kerrigan might get benched, even though jcobb like blacked out his profile picture on Twitter. So much speculation, but a lot of concern for me.
Is it already rumored that Rain will be the one that steps back? Was that just a rumor?
There's so many rumors. Rain. Then I read somewhere else that there's Frozen's. Apparently, Frozen's probably going to Navi because Blade followed him on Instagram over the weekend.
That was also a rumor from like the end of the off season, though, I believe.
Yeah,
so,
right.
So no one knows. Is it Rain? Is it Frozen? Is jcobb out after just getting in? No one has any clue where Twistzz fits.
I mean, FaZe are fucking dead if Frozen leaves, they don't have any stats. You know, like,
they're fucked. The team's dead, mate, if he leaves. Yeah, he's the best player.
It's definitely arguable whether or not Frozen lives up to his impact and statistics.
Yeah, sure.
But it's inarguable that he's really consistent. So,
yeah,
like with the amount of inconsistency, especially on the front with Rain and Kerrigan, I don't know how they survive without Frozen.
Should I tell you a real bummer? Right, I'm not going to do the whole simple thing. That's gone. That was months in the past. It's all good. He's just a tier 2 online god now. It's all good. But here's the detail. If you're a FaZe fan, I'm going to trigger you so hard. Why not just have Twistzz and EliGE? They don't even play the same fucking role in the game.
Yeah, but
you could have had a world where Brokey came back and Rain goes out and jcobb just fucks back off to play the one good series he ever played that you just mentioned, the Mongols one. That's why every person who says he's good always references that one series where he just had his life game, which, as you say, was a fucking meaningless Swiss system game that they didn't even make the playoffs from, even though that was like one of those like tier 1.5 PGLs, all good. So all I'm saying is we could have had a world where, okay, you didn't get simple, bit of a bomber, but then you get EliGE and Twistzz. By the way, EliGE, Twistzz plus Frozen, Brokey, mate, what would we be cooking with that lineup? That's FaZe Clan, mate. That's what FaZe Clan was supposed to be. Like big names. How are you going to put them all together? Kerrigan corralling people. Instead, you've just ended up with this like fucking whack-ass roster where it's like Twistzz, who isn't as good as he was a few years ago. Brokey's not as good as he was a year ago. Fucking Frozen is good, but maybe he's going to leave, like you say. In fact, that's even the part that I don't get about this move. That Frozen thing better just be like fans putting around rumors. Because if you're going to bring this player in and then your best player's going to leave, just forget the project, close it down at that point in time, mate. Like at that point, just like Frozen, they would be right. You should leave. It's a sinking ship. At that point, by the way, if Carrigan wants to play, why stay in FaZe? Why not you? Why don't you go to Mouse? Why doesn't everyone just distribute out and get the last dance? You know what I mean?
I have a bit of trouble believing it. Sorry. I'm just going to say I have a little bit of trouble believing that Frozen will actually go to Navi.
That sounds like bullshit to me too.
Yeah, because like I'm pretty like didn't he have the chance to go to Vitality at some point? Like if he was going to turn that down, you know, maybe FaZe weren't in as desperate of a position, but I feel like going to Navi, you know, going from one sinking ship to one burning ship. You know what I mean? Like, I think
it's like, debatable if it's even a better team, even if he joins it, mate. Yeah,
it's not even a ship, launders. It's like a little life raft at this point, to be fair. That was kind of my thinking, though, because I was like, I can't imagine if Frozen's leaving FaZe to join Navi, what the hell is going on at FaZe? Because that to me does feel like, I'm going to say, I think that's a downgrade, right? So I don't know how true that is, but obviously everyone on Reddit believes it is the case because Blade only follows 45 people on Instagram, now 46 or whatever it is with Frozen. So it must be Frozen. I can't believe someone is running a tracker on Blade's Instagram to see who he follows. That has blown my mind completely. But there you go.
Also, you would think, surely, right, one thing about CS compared to other sports and esports is actually CS players are pretty quick to fire off a tweet with no fucking safety on it, as it were. So I'm actually low-key shocked that not Navi, not FaZe, not Frost, no one's just said, by the way, this isn't true, it's all I'm not moving, so that's it. Like, why even leave it out there marinating? You know what I mean? That makes it feel like maybe there's like a possibility, or at one point they talked about it, or it's not a million miles away, you know? Because I feel like people actually, I mean, I'll go the other way. Dickheads like Monacy, that's right. I don't care if you're memeing, mate. You literally just lied publicly and said that move wasn't happening with Keisuke. Like, it was, and it did happen, so you're just a liar. So I either lie or say it's not happening or just fucking let it happen. Because I feel like it's suspicious, you know.
When Saw got bought while he was on Heroic, and there was the article came out, and his quote was, "Not all rumors are true."
Which is a correct statement. It's absolutely inarguable. It's just you'd been a twat there. You're philosophically dancing around it, aren't you? I know what you mean.
I just immediately made a video and said, he's going.
Yeah.
He's going.
But didn't the same thing...
Like to outright shoot it down. Like, yeah.
Didn't it happen with Gamer Legion now as well? The player that they've benched, it was like a couple of weeks ago, Ash put out a tweet going, this is the most untrue thing we've read about this player being benched, blah, blah, blah. And then it was like 3 weeks later, by the way, we're actually benching him. I thought that was also like, it kind of...
The problem is, so it's like Launders says, there's this thing that they do, which by the way, on some level, you are like, in terms of like your meaning being dishonest or disingenuous, right? What they do is they go like, oh, you say we're changing for Frozen on Thursday. That's not true. Change it for Friday. It's like, fuck off. Just fuck off already. You know what I mean? Get the fuck out. All I want to know is, like I say, I just want to know, is this even vaguely true? Like, was it even considered? Like, I've told people this in the past. I heard a rumor last year that before they did get all that success in NAVI in the summer, that actually EliGE asked to join NAVI. He wanted that spot. He wanted the Immer spot, I think. It's like logical that Dwayne slot in. So it's not like these moves don't happen. There's another thing, by the way. Maybe we can wrap up the whole, like, is it a fantasy move or is it real? Another move they do like to do is this as well, Sam. Or behind the scenes, the player wanted the move, the team wanted the move. They've even maybe met in real life at an event and gone, this would be a great move. They've had all the chats, but no one from the org ever officially produced a contract and give it to your agent. So you go, that's not true. I was never going there. And it's like, again, you're just being disingenuous there. Like, the point is, was there ever anything there? Was there ever even a possibility? Were you interested? Were they interested? That's what we want to know, really. We don't even need to know if the move happens. But no, I feel like players just like to use the fact that we don't know every detail to make it all seem fake in that sense, you know, even though it's kind of bullshit. I don't mind if they do it with a wink and a nudge like that one. Like, that Saw one sounds like he was being like satirizing it there, Lon. It's like he was trying to be like, not all rumors are true. Like that, he's being bawdy with it. The other ones just sound like they're just lying, mate.
You know, one thing I'll say is like there are some like we're all cheering for NAVI are like maybe the most successful org in many different ways in CS. Like history, superstars, accomplishments, a major in both CSGO and CS2. There's a lot of reasons to be excited about NAVI, no matter how bad it gets, and there's a lot of reasons for players to want to go to NAVI. No matter how hard it gets, because you know they can like build really winning teams. Sure. And like the last one's the best example out of thin air. So who's to say that it's going to be the last time? Especially when you know that this Blade at the top structure, Pally at the top structure, Saw at the top structure is only going to be more popular and Blade's the original.
Yeah, that's
reset.
true.
So I can understand that, but I'll say that I don't think Frozen he's not a game-changing roster move for almost any team. If he was, I think we would be excited about him going to Navi because, he fixed all the problems. I think in reality, Frozen is like when Rops went to Vitality.
Yeah,
I think
he should be a second star, Launders. If he's the second star, you've got a pretty good team, you know.
And you've got to have you've got to have an opera that's better than wonderful and a consistent core. And Imma, the guy shooting up front, openings. You've got to have better players to support. Frozen will be the glue of all the stats, all the late round stuff. He's going to put together a few clutches, just like Rops did. And then maybe you get like an era out of a player like Frozen, but you don't do it without the already almost perfect core. You get the Spinks to Mouse. That ended up working so fantastically well. Spinks such a quality player. He's never going to be the number one star player in your team. He's not going to be the best player in your team to like win you the whole year. But he can actually transform your team into a team that wins tournaments. I think Frozen can do that. But Navi, I don't think to anybody sort of feels like they're in that position where they just need one more change. It feels like they need 3.
So who do we think Twistzz is replacing? So is it Frozen, the Navi rumor? Is it the Rain wants to retire rumor? Or are they just going to get rid of the young gun they've just signed because he blacked out his Twitter profile or whatever? I mean, which one do you think it is, gents?
I actually have no idea. I can't even. I don't like if it's Kerrigan or Rain because I think Kerrigan. I mean, he's not playing great or anything, but it's nothing new. I just don't see him having the same level of impact as a coach right away. So I'm kind of like not as excited about that. And like, I don't trust any other person on that team to be an IGL. Rain is the most experienced. And like the last I've heard, he can't remember grenades. So like, you just he's never said he wanted to be a coach or be an IGL in the future. If he said it, maybe, but if it's not him, Twistzz, like no way. Twistzz can't even get out of the shadow. Couldn't get out of the shadow of Kerrigan on Liquid. No chance. He's good at calling 4-1s. He's not a systems thinker in the same way Kerrigan is, and that's no offense to him. Almost no players are. If Shuhei came on or whatever, then that would be the spiritual successor to Kerrigan. Maybe that would make sense. So I don't like if it's Kerrigan. I don't like if it's Rain. And if it's jcobb, I just feel bad for jcobb. Kind of just got a raw deal right there. He might be in kind of like just floating in, for a while after this, but maybe that's the guy who it makes the most sense.
Problem is, I think they're all bad moves, no matter who he comes in for. It's not even, by the way, Twistzz is a good player, but by the way, he also himself isn't some like game-changing player anymore. That's like, that was in the 2010s. That was fucking years ago at this point in time. Even at his best on Liquid, that was actually when the team was pretty bad. So it was one of those like big fish in a small pond scenarios. It wasn't like you were game-changing like actual big playoff series and winning them for yourself. You would just play really well in losses. So I think all of them suck, mate. Like, first of all, the one that sucks the most is if it's Frozen, because then you're literally just downgrading FaZe at this point in time. We're going to have less firepower, less star power, and then what? It's going to be fucking FaZe, Rain, Kerrigan, Chip. Forget even the 5th. By the way, the 5th is fucking broke. He was actually ass in the last season. So that lineup for real, if it's Frozen and Twistzz joins, I tell you right now, that's a team that won't even make like playoffs at PGL, mate. That'll be like borderline to do any arenas, which isn't the whole purpose of FaZe Clan, at least in the Kerrigan era before he retires. We want them to have like enough checked boxes to be on the stage to activate the whole like, wow, we like fucking play clutch when it's the big game. Or if you don't have that, you're not FaZe Clan at that point in time. You're just another international squad, and there's a million of those. So I don't. At that point, what reason do I have to cheer for this team over like Game EliGE or Furia or something like that? So
better logo.
Debatable. Debatable. I've always thought the FaZe Clan logo was ass personally, but whatever. It looks like something a little kid draws like before the school bell rings at 5 p.m. or something, on like the back of his notebook, like some weird logo. Oh, that'd be my skateboard company logo. Oh, shit, I've got to go home now. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Then on the other ones, right, obviously it can't be Rocky because of the ARPA. If it's Rain, I don't hate the if it's Rain one, because I do think we've reached the point. I make this point every fucking show. In the same way as I thought Spirit, the number one premise was, it's not that you had to kick one or the other, but you had to kick. No, it's not that you had to kick both, but you had to kick one of Chopper or Magic's. One had to go. They just couldn't provide enough. So the same logic, one of Rain or Kerrigan has to go. And again, to me, There is no FaZe clan if Carrigan goes. You just start an old project. So to me, the Rain one I don't hate. Again, here's the point I'll always make about Rain. It's the same point with the jcobb guy. We're not executing him, launders. Like, he is allowed to play Counter-Strike again. jcobb was never supposed to be in FaZe. He can just go and join another team. Why isn't it the same with Rain? I don't get this angle. Like, the whole, but he was so loyal for all those years, was he? Did he have a million offers to go elsewhere, did he? Or was he not just paid a king's ransom? He's paid millions of dollars by this org. Like, I think he's been done fairly well done by that org. He's also been allowed years where his stock tanked a little bit. So I don't think it's unreasonable to say it. Time to move on. Time you have to go,
It's not loyalty for me. I think loyalty, if you're a player, is super overrated. No one's going to look out for you when times get hard if you get cut.
Oh, and by the way, like Twistzz, players won't be that loyal themselves often. They'll just fuck off when the project goes to shit.
Yeah,
I mean,
like
isn't that even the shadow? Even though I will say, I do know some things behind the scenes. Like, it wasn't really that Twistzz was like the God Emperor and decided everything at FaZe and every recruitment. But I will just say he was an influential voice. And at times there's been moments where he had the leverage. Maybe he chose what happens. But anyway, I feel like the whole shadow hanging over this FaZe thing, and why people actually aren't having a ticker tape parade about the return of the prodigal son Twistzz, is I think a lot of people have the vibe, I sort of fuck with it a little bit, of like, wait a minute, Twistzz, didn't you go to Liquid, have them build squad after squad after squad around what you wanted, and then go, this is shit, this team, I'm off. And it's like, you're the one who helped build all this. Like, what? So you just leave when it's all fucked up. Like, that's it. That gives me a bit of a sour taste, mate.
I think I will say, like you say, Kerrigan is FaZe. I feel equally that about Rain. I think basically Kerrigan's going to have a much harder time calling for a team that doesn't have Rain on it.
Well, it's like you said earlier, what you said about the grenades, essentially, Kerrigan said last year that he just lets Rain do whatever he wants, basically, and that they just know each other so well, and like their system, it's like he just doesn't have to call for him, almost. It's like one less player to worry about, and he just does what he does in the round. So I know what you mean. Like, as much as we can look at raw numbers, like, you will lose something if that player goes. Like, whoever comes in isn't going to be operating like freelance like that.
Mm-hmm. Also, you're losing another old guy, and like, if you're Kerrigan, you're Rain, you're probably thinking, these are my last couple of years. I also want to have a good time while I'm doing this. Otherwise, I'm out. So I'm sure there's some element to that where it's like, if Kerrigan left the team, how long is Rain going to just stick it out even longer? Like,
yeah, true.
He's probably going to think about, well, I'll just hang it up, like, while I'm on top.
I said I wouldn't invoke the S word, but that's why the simple move was the gamble, launders. If you wanted both Rain and Kerrigan, then you needed to have simple, and you had to actually get really good again, like really good. Then you'd have a world where we could do it. Spoiler, I've already seen Edward and Zeus. That worked in 1.6, sort of. Listen, sometimes you could win. I'll take that over what we got now in FaZe, mate.
So didn't Rain...
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, Rain's done an interview where he said he is thinking about retiring, but like not right now. But obviously,
within the next 5 years I will retire.
Yeah, within the next. He's like he wants to spend time with his kids. So but I also don't think that this is a player that's going to walk out now just before the Budapest Major. I can't imagine him being like, oh well, it's just not going very well, so I'm out. Like, why would he want to?
Technically, no one ever should anyway, because you lose all the stickers as well. So, like, you actually should. By the way, pro tip: always make them remove you. Do not ever willingly remove yourself when you could go to any more majors. You will just. That's just saying, like, I don't want $200,000. You keep it.
Well, but then on the jcobb,
I was going to say, Rain's a thoroughly loyal bucket. If you want to compare him, he's got the trajectory of Crims. He has the
true.
There's like some guys who only wear one jersey. They're not going to retire. They're gonna hang out. They know they have a great job. First of all, they understand they're like putting that first. Now, if they go in, like, let's say he joins Liquid, now what? He's got to move to Amsterdam. Like, that might be a huge calculation for him, right? I've heard like FaZe boot camps are super messy. Their practice schedule is super messy, and that was a hard thing for EliGE as well. He's like very structured and meticulous. FaZe kind of just like they know how each other live, so they just do whatever all the time, and it ends up working, or it doesn't. I think for someone like Rain, he's looking like a Crims right now. He's looking like he's going to wear that jersey for as long as they'll let him keep it on. And he's too nice of a guy that no one's going to want to cut him. It's going to be a NAF situation. He's going to want to retire. He's probably said it already. And they said, no, please don't retire. I don't care about your stats, bro. I love you so much. Don't retire.
So what do? They get rid of Jacobs, who they've just bought the kid in. Like, that to me feels that is a horrible thing to do to a player. So you buy him from his team, then you bench him after it was one tournament and he didn't look shit in that tournament. And then you bench him and go, cool, thank you very much. Like,
I think
Come
Thorin's right. Like
on.
it's
He
like
looked
you know,
he looked mid as fuck. He looked mid as fuck. Like, here's the thing. I would say this. I
Alright.
wouldn't judge this whole game off that. You don't. It's not. You get like 3 or 4 tournaments or a month or something. Yeah, true. But he didn't look
Apparently
good
you
in the
don't if it's
outset.
him.
Remember,
It's
he
just
wasn't
year
just
one.
joining. He was replacing EliGE. EliGE was one of the stars of the team. That's my problem with this whole equation. Everyone's told me this stupid thing, which I'm so bored of. It's the same as the whole, why can't Simple join Navi again? Well, I'm Blade, and you have to understand, like, I don't want superstars and people who are really difficult to play with. Well, then come last place and have a fucking tea party and pass the cupcakes around, dickhead, and have a hug. Like, what's the fucking choice here? You're saying it like, yes, obviously, if the choice was, I want the same level of impact, but none of the downside. Well, yeah, we all get that. But the point is, I'm going to fucking magic lamp with the fucking genie to come out halfway. You have to face reality, and that's what choices do you have here?
I mean, yeah, like I think the only benefit of jcobb is he's not matching EliGE. You know, he's not matching EliGE, but I think the only benefit of him is just making other players have some of their roles back.
Yeah, the logic, as far as I could tell, was to make sure that, like, I mean, people even imply this is what was going to bring Rain back to the game, and he was going to have all those big games again that we had by the 3 years ago. But okay, people thought that. Well, again, if that's the logic, that you're going to judge someone's stats. You're basically saying there, don't look at jcobb's stats, look at Rain's stats. Okay, I'm looking at him. What am I looking at? Still not good.
So what I'm getting here, launders, is like, even with Twistzz returning, I do kind of agree with Thorin. I think a lot of people, when Twistzz left FaZe for Liquid, he had a lot of love. And then when all the Liquid shenanigans happened, there isn't a lot of his fan stocks have kind of dropped, right? There is a lot of blame on him for what Liquid looks like right now. Whether it's true or not, we'll probably never know. So no one's really excited about him coming back to FaZe. But when we're talking about it now and we don't know who he's going to replace, like, does this work in any world? Because every single player we've spoken about, we've kind of gone, well, we're not really sure. It doesn't really do much. Maybe he replaces jcobb. Is it going to make them any better?
I think over the years of going back and forth between roles and stats and like where you can force, you know, a square peg into a round hole and stuff like that, sometimes it works where you don't expect it. I think I've ended in sort of looking at composition over everything else. So sometimes it's roles, sometimes it's just about, are you an early round player or a late round player for me? And I think like the best version of FaZe had 3 late round players, 2 early round players. With EliGE, it was not, you know, it's not like he wasn't good enough. It's just maybe it was the wrong fit. That's sort of how it felt to me. If we look at composition and think about Twistzz coming into FaZe, I think the only move that actually could make sense is Frozen from not harming any of the composition, making sure Rain still has his spots, everything like that. But like Dunk said, you're just going to take a dive. Like it's not, I mean, in terms of comparing them 1-to-1, you're not even really getting a benefit of like, oh, they've had longer time together and more chemistry. Frozen's got all that as well. So Frozen's also, I think, hungrier than Twistzz is. He doesn't have his, he didn't get to experience.
Yeah, he still wants to win all the major and everything.
He wants a major. Yeah, that's where the consistency comes from these players in dark times. That's how I think Nico can still be so good for so long. I think he would have fallen off a long time ago.
It's probably why Carrigan lasted so long, because he never won the major, wasn't he? He was still going for that ultimate goal, yeah.
Yeah, and then when you choke again, I think there's the conversation, well, you got to keep fighting that demon, I guess. It's like, you might have thought the second one was going to come for free. You're just going to go on and win a lot more. But I think it starts to haunt you a bit if you're a real competitor, and I think they all are. So I think that if he came back in, I would say like the move I'd be like most interested to see, because there was a little bit of tension, I think, between Rops and Frozen, even though he would never admit it. It felt like there was something wrong there, and that led to Rops leaving, because people don't just leave FaZe, like that really is the most family team that we've got in Counter-Strike. If there is something that maybe Twistzz can add that Frozen isn't, or this could be a money thing. They can't afford to hang on to Frozen any longer. Like FaZe, we've always known have had money issues, but for some reason they've been able to keep up, have a team, get new players all the time. If it's the case that Navi are, for once, since Ima, JL, Alexi are trying to buy a player for like a good amount of money, it's possible that this is something that Frozen can't turn down. It's something that FaZe can't turn down in terms of selling him, and it's just the way it has to be. I think that's also possible.
Wouldn't Twistzz be like mad expensive to buy though, Thorin? I mean, wasn't that Liquid
the problem
deal?
is, the issue is, I don't know, I could Google it, but I don't know when his contract was originally signed. Like, off the top of my head, it feels like surely he went at the end of 2023, and so it would be like, it could be almost run out. If it was a 2-year contract, could be almost up, to be fair. So I would imagine it wasn't a massive blackball deal. As Launders says, it's never been the case, as far as I know, that FaZe Clan ever plays massive buyouts, as long as you're not going to the very beginning of the org when they bought the G2 roster. Like, as far as we know, the way this is why they also can't let Carrigan go, mate. Because isn't the whole reason people join this team what you've just said about Frozen? You don't join FaZe because they pay the most money and they've got all the best players in the back. You join because it's viewed as like the finishing school for great players. You join to win the major, to win the Grand Slam, to be epic, and to like complete your career. It's actually why EliGE joined. I'm almost certain, by the way, the only reason EliGE joined FaZe is because of literally seeing what happened to Twistzz. He was like, wait, we were both in the same team. I was better than you, and we won a bunch together, but we didn't win the major. Then you just went. Then you had all these Europeans around you. You won everything. Why don't I just do that? In fact, if you ever watch my reflections with Nav, he basically openly admits that made him think about the same thing. Like, maybe at the end of my career, I should go and do the European tour. Because remember, EliGE was the #1 American pro who did not want to live in Europe, if people don't know. Him and Nitro, actually, because Nitro obviously was going to have a family and he comes from like the countryside or whatever. But him and Nitro were the two who said, I'll never do it. The reason EliGE did it is because actually he was right here as well. It's because you're not actually committing to live there for 10 years. You tried it for like 1 year. If it goes awesome, great, you win everything. Then you have a choice to make. And if it goes badly, you just go back home. It's just like a sabbatical. So I even think the EliGE angle worked. But no, that's what I mean. To me, that's why I don't really buy that this is like a massive block. But this, I would imagine he was at the end of his contract and it was either like not very much money or it was like a small buyout. By the way, there's even a world in this sort of a move where if the player's motivated, maybe like a simple estimate, maybe he paid part of the buyout. Maybe he was like, I'll pay half, you pay half. I'll come over here. I get out of this liquid thing, which, let's be real, is a nightmare. They're in some purgatory state where they always look like they're about to get good, but they never win the fucking game and they never go anywhere in the tournament. And as I've just said, you've sort of done everything you can within liquid. You've stimulated all the moves you want, seemingly. You've tried a bunch of them. This is why there's actually a famous concept I'll very briefly reference here that on my channel I've mentioned many times. In history, believe it or not, it's considered a civilizational concept that when cultures get to a point where they feel stuck and they've lost their way, all they do is just look back in history at what was considered the last like sane moment in their history. Think about how politics works. There's a lot of this. They look back at what they think was the last moment when everything was good, and you just try and recreate that scenario. Hence, you get a million Last Dance projects. You get like Cold J and Fall and want to play together again. You just get all these moves where to someone who's watching modern day CS, you're like, why are you doing this move? But it's like in their mind, they're going to the happy place, as it were.
That's poignant. I like that. I mean, I feel like that's like, you wouldn't think someone would stake their career on decisions like that, but when you think that you've exhausted all your options, you are going to go back.
Yeah, you got to do something.
And you look in the mirror and you think like, you know, I'm in the second half of my career. I'm not going to just come. I don't even have the energy to like try something new. Like I'm going to go for what probably might work. Maybe I made the wrong move by changing from that. Is what you sort of think, and then you give it a shot. I also think like, it's a spot where, like, it's an open secret that, you know, Twistzz is maybe unhappy on Liquid. Like, I think everyone can see it. I think a lot of NA players are even talking about maybe this benefits both sides. It seems like it's possible.
I swear that tweet he made about we're not a real team, like, that was the writing on the wall there, mate. He may as well have said I'm off soon, you know, because, like, you don't say that if you're staying and it's going to be awesome. You're going to turn it around, do you? That was a really suspicious tweet, wasn't it?
I mean, it kind of felt like bad form to even tweet that while
I know.
you're really running with a team, like your team, you know what I mean? So even if things are going to end, I think hold back on something like that. But either way, it might be a case where you got jcobb Steve, who's like, and I want to give credit to jcobb Steve. I've looked at the last two Liquid lineups and looked down and seen the composition and been like, this team can do better.
Yeah, they look like they should work, man. Absolutely.
Holy fuck. Like, they really have tried to make some big moves. They paid good money and they respected composition.
By the way, we all asked for the Shuhei to Liquid move. Everyone in the scene asked for that move. We all did. Yeah.
And I still can see it sometimes. They got, you know, the two, like, they have the worst 4v5 percentage in you watch when it happens too, it's always choking. It's like 11 to 13. And I cannot do the Shuhei's a fraud conversation because I saw him bring Gamer Legion up to a major final. That's the closest Ash has ever gotten to a damn trophy. So I've seen him go take a risk in his own career, not just ride off the coattail of great players and then just run it back. I have a lot of faith that Shuhei is going to be good. I don't think that Kerrigan's going to throw out a recommendation for an IGL to succeed him to someone random that's as low down as Shuhei is without really having a good reason for that. I see him as a good IGL. I've seen good results from Mao's NXT to Mao's to Gamer Legion. Like, I can see him, you know, being a good IGL. Maybe I think there might be too many cooks in the kitchen. Twistzz was a former IGL. Might be some ideas when things go badly that aren't working out. this could be a spot where Joker Steve goes, hey, like Twistzz, do you want to go to FaZe? Twistzz goes, yeah, I want to go to FaZe. All right, let's try to make this happen. Like they go to FaZe, they talk about it. I'm sure there's a possible chance that they could get around how much he could have costed to make it happen for both teams.
Do you think that the rumor of the swap between Twistzz and EliGE actually has some legs? Because obviously the next question has to be who the hell replaces Twistzz at Liquid. And I wonder if that rumor actually had legs, and for whatever reason, there was a delay on getting it done, but that was actually always the thing that was going to happen. What do you think?
There is two things. One is there was that really ominous phrasing by EliGE in his tweet when he got benched for jcobb, which was something like, you'll see me again soon, or like something like he alluded to almost as though he had like his next project ready. He didn't make it like, I'm going to the bench now, I'm going to be inactive for a while and, contact my agent or whatever. He made some weird comment in the tweet where it almost implied like, it actually made me think they were going to like days later, announce like, EliGE to Liquid or EliGE to NAVI or some other squad, right? So there was that. And then there's also the factor that last year, when I was looking into when they had, I know it seems like a million years ago, but it was the beginning of last year, when they had that super team with Cadian and all those Skulls and Zeus, etc. I know internally that there was a point in time where people in Liquid were considering EliGE as one of the players for that super team and as a replacement for some of the people in that super team. And I heard EliGE even wanted to join. But basically, I was told internally it was vetoed, and it was implied, without people overtly saying, or at least I can't say it, that Twistzz was one of the people who did the veto, or maybe he was the veto. So if there is no Twistzz, if you're Liquid, by the way, if people think Twistzz to FaZe is a fun PR move, EliGE returns to Team Liquid. You do have a fucking ticket tape parade for that, mate. That's like your video of your whole history. You get to reconnect to what was your original star player. You built the whole team around. That's the whole Grand Slam run. That's everything. So I think not only is that like a good move in terms of he would be good in the team, I think that's a massive PR win if you're Liquid. And as you say, Launders, when they've tried everything else, there's not actually a lot of PR wins you can get right now if you're Liquid. Like, you're in a bad spot anyway, and most people would. If you only say Twistzz is leaving, people are going to think the team's dead. If you say EliGE is rejoining, maybe people go, we'll give this a little bit more of a chance.
I mean, I don't know if we know anything about this, but Kassad said they're getting a better player than Twistzz. I don't know what he knows.
No, the problem with that is I do a show regularly with Kassad, so I should know the way his mind works. And I can tell you, I have no fucking clue who he thinks is better or worse than Twistzz. Because Kassad is the guy who will just out of nowhere be like, hot take. Is Donk even top 5 right now? And you're just like,
what?
So I can't even. The problem with that is that sounds like a great clue. Like he's better than Twistzz. I don't even know who that could be. That could be like fucking Hunter for all I know, mate. Who even knows?
No, my favorite Kassad moment from your show is when you threw him a handout too. He was like, FaZe are not a top 5 team right now.
Yes, I know this one.
And then you went, okay, Kassad, you even primed him. You're like, hey, I just got to say this. Like, just because you said they're not a top 5 team right now, I have to ask, who are the 5 better teams?
Yeah.
And then you went like, Vitality. They're just not a top 5 team.
I think the joke was he only named like 3 and he couldn't do all 5. And he realized very quickly, like, shit, I haven't got 5. But he'd already made that like hard statement, hadn't he? Yeah, exactly.
So good.
Exactly.
My favorite was when we got Kassad on here during the major and had him have a mental breakdown about Falcons. And I don't know.
It triggered him completely. Because I said something like, look, Kassad, you can't deny that getting Monacy and Nico is really good GMing. And that just triggered the fuck out of him. You can imagine.
It was
he went
30 minutes of him just losing his mind. And then I watched
box office though. It was all great. Go watch it.
I just watched Thorin consistently feed the fire and throw gasoline on it and just be contrary to whatever Kassad said, because like the vein in his head was starting to pop out and he was losing
all still
his
mates,
mind.
All still mates.
It was beautiful. I want to see that again. I enjoyed it.
By the way, let's play that for a second though, because I'm trying to think who would, because there can't be a lot, by the way. You just think Twistzz is a good player. There can't be many players he actually thinks are better than.
It's Frozen.
It has to be Frozen or EliGE. Like, I think it actually has to be, bro. There can't be many more players, can there?
But
who are available, that is,
Let me throw a spanner in the works, though, because people might not have seen this, but in the last week, there have been considerable social media posts from employees at Liquid who have been retrenched or let go because Liquid's done a bunch of staff cuts. Okay. So I'm like, I don't know, maybe my tinfoil hat's on here, but I was like, so that surely you can't end the contracts of a bunch of staff, cut staff, and then
they won't have money for buyouts and stuff, right? I see what you mean.
So I know that you've possibly sold Twistzz, but at the same time, like there is an optics thing here where you can't go spend a massive amount of money. So
by the way, here's why the EliGE move isn't that bad as well. You could logically just do it. Then it's a contract swap. You
That's
could
what
just
I'm
say,
thinking.
you take EliGE's contract, we take 20. No money changes hands, and we just both have the player. That would actually make more sense, yeah.
That to me was like, I actually think that the EliGE rumors, that's got the
That's not
legs.
bad.
I can't think of anyone else, Launders, that they could put in that team right now.
Yeah, like it's the same. It's the same. Like even when I think of like who Kasad thinks is better than Twistzz, who could possibly be going to Liquid. I know Liquid will spend maybe some money, but like you're saying, maybe not right now. And then I like the list of players is like who I have no idea. So if there's rumors that it's Frozen, maybe that makes sense because then it's like a natural fit too. But otherwise, I honestly I don't know. But here's the fantasy pipeline for
Go on.
Shuhei. It's to take Frozen and then do what Kerrigan did back on Mouse with Frozen and then become Kerrigan one day with his players.
Okay.
That's all I've got.
By the way, here's what I don't get. Here's why I also think this move is so bizarre to me. And I do think Twistzz is on some like, well, all I need is to be in FaZe and have Kerrigan and Rain and then something. Now I've got all the majors and everything. I don't even think that equation works, by the way. That's why I made fun of it there. The joke is, I think Team Liquid's easier to fix. Like, if you really do get an EliGE or a Frozen, bro, all we need is the AWPer. Give me a better AWPer. I don't even need the Alpha. I'm not worried about that. Give me a better AWPer, which, by the way, doesn't mean I have to have world-class AWPer. Just get me one of those CIS up-and-coming AWPers that look like this shit hot. It doesn't have to be Molodoi, because Molodoi at the moment is the best case scenario. But, by the way, the joke would be, if I were Liquid, I'd take Wonderful, mate. I think even he's good enough. So I just need a better AWPer. And if I have a better rifle, I think Liquid's pretty close to being there again. I know that's copium, because we said that for the rest of the season. But they also sort of were. Remember, they actually are one of the teams, no joke, that has given Vitality some of the best series they've played. They just can't win the series, unfortunately.
It's so fucking annoying to contextualize losses when they happen 5 times in a row.
Yeah,
like,
true.
It doesn't make every instance untrue, but it does make it annoying, hard to believe, sort of feels like cope when you say it, when you see the 13-11 victory.
Yep.
In both cases, there's a 2v4 loss in the 23rd round because Liquid can't stop moving around. Some stupid shit happens over and over again. They could have got tons of ERS points there. They could have taken down the world #1 and got their own fucking series of headlines. They could have literally jumped so many spots off of 1 or 2 victories and changed the story entirely. But instead, they lost those games continuously. But you cannot help but know, if you watch them, they actually could have won.
It was good.
Lost,
it wasn't a fluke.
Because of their own mistakes in the end. They complexity lost it, sort of. Still have potential.
So just as a matter of interest, EliGE, if I'm not mistaken, is like playing on some like weird tier 2 team at the moment. Is he not?
Okay.
Let me just confirm.
Was he standing in for someone?
I thought he was standing in for someone and they let him go off and play, but I might be wrong here.
There was a rumor like that, I think, but I haven't seen him play a game.
Because then I was like, if he's allowed to go off and play, then there's a very good chance that like he could go. But I can't find any of it right now. So let's just stick to benching. But in this magical world that we're now living in, where we're sort of guessing about roster moves.
By the way, you know what I realise is fucking up this whole conversation is we're all half remembering those translated from Russian Telegram messages, which half the time aren't pumpkins anyway. So the problem is in our brains, that's now actually replaced real news. And we're all like, did I hallucinate actually seeing this? Or was it just a random person from Russia going, actually, this is happening? And then your brain is like, was that HLTV or was it actually random Telegram X? It's so true, isn't it? Like, it's hard to nail that. Also, it's impossible to Google this shit, isn't it?
From his own tweet, at least, he said, end of a chapter now, and we'll be starting a new one
there you go.
Soon.
That's a bit ominous, right? Because he hasn't done anything, bro. That was weeks ago now.
Do you know where I might have messed up? Wasn't there was this moment where a bunch of like the tier 2 teams were making those fake pictures of like players that are coming to them, and there's a very good chance I got.
They might have done like, but it's where I will say a lot of people have tried to like manifest into reality EliGE to BC game for obvious reasons. But as far as I know, there was no actual basis to that. That is just people on Twitter.
I think I might have seen one of those, and that's
probably
that's what's popped in. But in our magical world where we're now just trying to guess what the hell is going to happen to Liquid, if EliGE is the swap and he is there, what do we think of the Liquid lineup as it stands right now for the major?
My concern would be like if. Like, I think all these former Liquid 2019 Liquid players, I think have a certain level of ego that's undeniable. And I think that before they won the Grand Slam and won it together, it was all good because they were on like this ride and this high going up there. But now they're at a point where Twistzz can only operate on FaZe Clan because it's the only team where he's surrounded by players who are he might look at as better, more experienced, or just like more top level than he is. But on any lower level roster, like any of the Liquid iterations or new projects, it might be too hard for them to be any kind of startup process or runway for them to put their ego aside to make it work. That's how I feel. I think that the same thing could be said for Stewie, it could be said for Twistzz, could be said for EliGE. I think that just extends. I mean, maybe NAFI is impervious to having ego or something. So one exception. But I think that my issue would be if EliGE goes, if there was an issue between the Shuhei and Twistzz in terms of ideas, why wouldn't there also be an issue between EliGE and Shuhei in terms of ideas? Are you going to get closer to a team that Shuhei can call for? Because one thing that you can't say if you compare him to Kerrigan, amazing at calling for superstars. Shuhei specifically was the superstar slayer last year. He was the guy who literally called with a team that never had its own, a consistent top fragger. Just everyone was pretty good. So with storied players who have a lot of accomplishments, who have a lot of like star player potential, we don't know if he can actually call a map, the tournament, to put star players in positions to like feed a lot off the game and put everyone else sort of in the backdrop. We don't know if he's very good at that. So that would be my worry.
Thorin, why do you think EliGE had to be benched from FaZe?
I mean, I do think part of it was, I think the team is actually, here's the thing, it might come out later that they're going to claim, because now they're sort of like seeding the waters of like, maybe he didn't fit the vibe, or maybe he wanted too much, or maybe he wanted more structure than they have, whatever, all the usual like reasons that are quite vague. But I just get the sense that like within their team, they had a delusional sense of how good the squad should be. By the way, we all did. When they first added him for Robs, it was like, this could work. There's a world where, you sort of still
arguing.
around.
Remember that we did this show. We were arguing about whether or not Vitality or FaZe would be better by June.
Yeah.
We all thought it was possible. Absolutely. Yeah.
And part of that was we were also all living off the high of the Shanghai Major run, and it was so epic. It was like, oh, maybe we can just forget that season. That was just a stupid season, and now they're going to be back and re-energized and all that. Think about the narrative we just set up, and EliGE hasn't won a major yet, so he's going to try and fit in because he wants his chance to win, etc. Right? My issue is obviously collectively that didn't work, and then I get the sense within their team, like my sense isn't that he's like some nightmare toxic player now. I get the sense instead he's someone where, because of that reason, that impetus that he has to try and win the major, etc. That's the only reason he's there. He's not there to just go, oh, cool, we came 8th once. Like, if you're that player, you should speak up. You should be like, actually, I need more things, or I want more structure, or I want his role, or I have to set me up in this spot. Like, you should try and make those changes. I get the sense that one, didn't work, and two, they didn't vibe with it. Like, that's not what they want. They want, like, to me, picking up the jcobb guy, there's no way they actually think jcobb's better than EliGE. That's just saying, I want a person who doesn't talk, basically. Just shut the fuck up, do what I say, and shoot them a bit. And then we'll figure. And then that's why the whole copium isn't like, they don't come out themselves. Notice, by the way, you could do this if you're Carrigan. If you believe jacob's some mega talent, you do an interview. I think in FaZe Clan, jcobb can be better than EliGE one day. You'll never see that interview. It's never been done. They've never even alluded to that. If anything, that's why the copium, like I say, is maybe this brings back rain. Maybe the vibes are back. This is what we needed as a team to feel more complete and have an identity. It's all that like jazz about team building concepts. So I get that. That's more the senses. I think the stakes that they were playing at were very high, even though the results weren't. And so it was either going to really work out, or you're going to have to bust it and blow it up. That's why I think they did the simple gamble. I think that no matter what they say now, I think that was a Hail Mary, and they thought if it worked, it turned everything around. It didn't work.
I have a totally absurd sort of take on this. Could be totally wrong, probably is. I feel that with Twistzz, he was more malleable for European culture to just totally change sort of.
I mean, I'll insert the obvious joke, launders. He doesn't even speak with the Canadian accent anymore. He speaks with that fucked up English accent where it's like, it sounds like he's a Swedish person speaking in English, even though he's a Canadian who never lived in Sweden. You know what? He does sort of do that though. You know what I mean? Like, even his accent has become, by the way, this isn't a joke. That happens when you talk to people. The reason my accent isn't harsh for people to understand, I used to have a really hard one from the Northeast, is because I've spent like 20 years talking to people whose English was their second language. So I now speak in a sort of neutralized, generic international accent that's like halfway between like mildly American and just some generic English accent. I don't speak with like a Northeast accent. So over time, I'm not even joking. I am joking, but also you can hear it in his voice. Like that. Yeah. That's sort of a sign of it, Launders, in a way. I do think he's more adaptable. But so there's another thing. When you would see those images of EliGE on the player cam, in that, like, it looked like a fucking back room of a gulag in fucking Poland. Like, that looked rough, mate. When he was just in, like, it was just in a bare apartment. It was like some bachelor pad where it's just a bare apartment with, like, a mattress and a copy of, like, fucking Jordan Peterson book next to his bed or something. Like, what the fuck's going on in the protein powder in the corner and one dumbbell? That's what it wasn't really, but you know what I mean? I'm painting the picture for you. It looked like suffering, mate. Like, if you're not winning in the game, then reality's harsh, you know.
I don't think there's any other environment I would have dropped this take on except this podcast, to be fair, with you two on either side of me, flanking me, because it's such a ridiculous thing to just like go. This is what you call
go for it
in fighting games a hard read, but this is how I feel that your Twistzz is more malleable. I think you can hear it. I think you can hear it. I think you can see it. I think he's more comfortable. He was more comfortable with the move. We know that concretely. EliGE was very resistant to the idea of moving in the first place.
Also, do we even know if EliGE likes basketball?
I know that
He
one.
doesn't remember that one. He wasn't that when Zeus revealed that thing. He claimed that, like, the reason why Twistzz was, like, secretly involved with FaZe is, like, they were all going to basketball games when he was in Liquid or some shit. There was some stupid story like that.
I think that Zeus was, but the real story was that Zeus was upset that Twistzz went without him, and then he asked Twistzz for a shirt, and Twistzz didn't bring the right shirt back. That was the real gist of that conversation. And Zeus has held that against Twistzz.
Starbucks story for every player on that old Liquid.
Yeah, exactly. That's the stupid Starbucks of FaZe, you know, yeah.
So yeah, and then I think then the rest is sort of explains itself. I think that EliGE less comfortable with it. I think when we knew, at least that I heard, and that, like, I didn't even need to hear, was that he wasn't at first comfortable with the idea of this sort of like flat, you know, workplace culture that FaZe had, where you could show up any day of the week, sit on any computer, talk to people, not come in on Fridays, like, you know, just show up and, like, maybe we boot camp, maybe we don't, you know what I mean? You just gotta be ready for it. I think that EliGE needs notice. He needs to have, like, structure, and I think that they knew that. They probably knew that when they hired him, and they probably tried to accommodate it. But at the end of the day, the culture of everyone else is going to be a lot stronger, and that's why they went for another depressed-looking European shooter to that sounded really bad. European player to come in and just be that extra fifth guy. I think that's why it's in some weird ways feels more comfortable.
So I feel the same way, and at PGL Bucharest, I called EliGE an energy vampire, and I didn't give any context, and I still feel bad about that.
It's funnier without context. In many ways, it works as a joke, but without context. You know?
But so when he was on Complexity, like, I obviously I would speak to a couple of people, and I saw things, and the one thing that I learned about EliGE is that, like, out of everyone on the team, they were like, he works so damn hard. Like, he will stay in the practice room when everyone else leaves. Like, he is whatever time, like, anyone else is putting in, he's doing, like, 3 times as much. He's VOD reviewing his own stuff with other people. Like, he is consistently putting in the time, and, like, he holds himself to that standard.
Even had his own YouTube channel. I don't know if he still runs it. He used to have his own fucking YouTube channel too. Yeah.
They didn't want to just keep trying the same thing and slowly degrading in quality. Maybe they wanted him to change the culture a little bit, and then were uncomfortable when they tried it. Maybe that's what.
Well, I just remember on Complexity, because there was a time where we were allowed to stand behind players in booths till Kassad and Pimp ruined that for all of us. So you could stand there and you could hear them. And there were so many times where, like, he would tell other people what they were doing wrong in a tone that maybe wasn't very nice. But it was very matter of fact, like, you're fucking up here, don't do this. But he was playing really well. So I kind of got the impression that he's one of those players where he works the hardest.
You're activating all of my, like, fetishes for simple here. It's like, plays really well, tells people they're doing stuff wrong, slightly too harsh tone. Tell me more. Please, tell me more.
But I feel like if you're the guy, and maybe that's, and sort of when I called him an energy vampire, it was based on all of this, where I was like, I think this is the guy that works harder than anyone, puts in the fucking time, is doing the best in the server, so then, and wants to win. So he will tell his teammates, like, hey, listen, you're effing lazy. Like, stop doing that. Like, do this. Also, like, I've done the research. This is better. And the problem with that is, I mean, even if you're a pro, right? Maybe you don't want to constantly be told what you're doing wrong.
Especially not if you're a veteran. Maybe you're past that part of your career, yeah.
And I sort of said, I think he's a bit of an energy vampire, because I noticed, like, in Complexity and FaZe, the level of the players around him go down and he gets better. But it could literally, like, I think it comes down to a vibes thing. But then at the same time, I'm like, that kind of sucks, because do you deserve to be punished? Because, I mean, it is a team. Actually, let me take that all back. Of course you do. It's a team. Like, you have to learn to operate in the team. But I do think like maybe EliGE has that problem where he's kind of demanding the same standard from the people around him that he's putting in.
Yeah,
And when he doesn't get that, that becomes difficult.
I'll give you a counter. In my opinion, one aspect of team building that is very misunderstood and overlooked. It's why I want there to be not just coaches and IGLs. I want real general managers that build like a 2-year plan for their squad, and they don't sign a player because he was good at the last tournament. They sign a player because he's FaZe material, or he's the player we need. Because one thing I think people should do is, when you describe that player there, I just gave the analogy to Simple, right? Would anyone say, oh, Simple can't play tier 1 because in any team he joins, it's going to be really harsh? No, it's like Blade said. Blade wasn't just dissing him in that recent comment about what he was telling you was you need a very specific type of team around Simple. But spoiler, he had it, and when you get it, it's one of the greatest teams you'll ever see. So in my opinion, it's not that this means EliGE can't play in any of these teams, but you probably need someone to balance them out. Like maybe you need the person, for example, when you tend to get a player like that that's very demanding, you often then want the player where they're the opposite mentality. They're the guy who never asks for anything. They'll do anything they're told. They'll be the levity when they need to raise the moment a lot. So I think sometimes you just need other personalities that balance it out. Or here's another one: you need a squad where, like Launders speculated, maybe FaZe was doing. Maybe they have got to a point where it's just the boys, and everyone just sort of turns up whenever and goes, "Well, who cares? We'll get in the playoffs, and then we'll win, won't we, guys?" And that just stops happening. And then you go, "Actually, let's get in this striver. Let's get in the guy who tells us all like we're doing it wrong and that we want to get all this shit going." Like you could also argue that could be the kick up the arse too. Depends on your unit of teams, doesn't it?
I mean, at the end of the day, all these guys, I'm sure they want to win the major. Like that's the main goal for every Counter-Strike player every season. It's always achievable. It's only 6 months away. It's not like, a year's worth of work or whatever. And if you're a team like FaZe, consistently top 8, you're close. You just need a little bit more to put you over the edge. You sign up a guy like EliGE, he's on the same page in that regard. And it could be a million things. It could be the difference of vision of how to get there. It could be when they started playing. Well, he doesn't know how to do this fucking telepathy, on the map where he can just move in the way that, Rain and Kerrigan know how to operate. Maybe that just didn't work for that reason. It's very,
that's fair.
Sort of innocent or innocuous in that reason.
Yeah.
And that could have been the case. But I'm sure that they have the standards. Like we saw like JKS going to FlyQuest, one of the interviews, I think from Inns, that he said he's really bringing up the standards. And I think that was a very telling word to use, because when you bring in a player of that quality, they're going to get angry, but you actually want that, because then if your goal is, again, to win the major, you'll all be happy when you get there. Otherwise, you're not going to be happy. That's it. So it's kind of just like, how much do you want to get there? And it kind of brings the weeds out. You kind of expose the people, the problems, the people who don't want to get there. It's either that or the play styles were incongruent, and it's hard, obviously, to say which it could be, but I would doubt that they knew, I'm sure they knew what they were going up against. That's what I would assume.
So seeing as this is just a full episode of speculation, because we don't have any official announcements yet, let's have a little bit of fun.
But that's also the hack, because now, as long as any of those 15 things happen, it doesn't even matter if they do announce it tomorrow. Yeah. You can say you sort of talked about it on this episode anyway. So as long as it isn't really like some mad one out of left field, we're okay, we're covered.
Well, you see, we tried to do this with the last Vitality one and how they would end up winning Blast London, and then they didn't, Thorin. So that backfired. I tried that. I thought we were winning with this formula, and I just can't get it right. But here's the fun question. Right. FaZe and Liquid, do we even see them in like contesting for a major in the next few months with these sort of changes happening?
Why ask me these questions where you allow me to self-harm myself via my own reputation and public words? Because here's the problem. This is how you know I am out on FaZe. By the way, the only lineup of FaZe I will accept is the jcobb one out. If you have it as like Frozen, Brokey, and Twistzz, at least that's something. Maybe I can hopium my way into that being like, all right, and Carrigan calls in. But it's the other way around. I'm actually way more hyped about the idea that EliGE goes to the Liquid, mate. If you have a Liquid that is these three players, Shuhei, Nerds, and EliGE, that's a team right there, mate. We can build something off that. It didn't work with Twistzz yet, but I think some of that was the Shuhei Twistzz connection didn't seem like it existed. If EliGE joins Liquid, here's all I would say if I'm Liquid. Your number one job when you join is help Nerds get back to the way he used to be. Because if Nerds is really good and EliGE is really good, bro, we've got a team then. Like that team, Corpium could make like a major run or be a relevant team that's punching up with the G2s, the Auroras of the world, right around that like Mongols level. I don't think that's impossible. So I'm actually I know it sounds mad because it's an unpopular position, but I'm sort of more in on Liquid if this move happens in FaZe, even though the way the move is sold is this is supposed to be a win for FaZe.
I'll take the opposite. I'll be more in on FaZe slightly, just because I just don't know who's actually going to go to Liquid. I know at least who FaZe are getting. I don't know who they're replacing. So it's like opposite things. But FaZe, I made this pact to myself that I'm not gonna doubt them until they quit, because like even at the last major, they made it top 8 again, man. Like they actually literally made playoffs with Simple, which is so fucking crazy, because Simple today probably gets them to that major final. You know, he's actually put in so much time after the fact that probably replaying that playoff match in his head over and over again. Already beat Mongols once, could have done it again. Just needed to get the ring rust off. Obviously, someone like him, you know, you could eventually. I think it's amazing they got that far. I think they could. I don't know why they wouldn't be able to make playoffs again with 4 out of 5. I don't think that even if it's Frozen or jcobb or whoever, that will be the ultimate difference. I think that's why I think the team still really rests within Kerrigan and Rain. Those are actually the only 2 constants. So I'd say, you know, I'm looking for a top 8 from FaZe, sort of no matter what happens. But there are better moves and worse moves for who Twistzz could replace.
So there we are. We have absolutely no idea who Twistzz replaced. We have no idea who goes to Liquid. And these are all our thoughts. But you can tell us your thoughts. And we probably all be wrong. But there you go. That's the joy of doing these before the announcements get made.